Hello to everyone and welcome to Energy Capital News. I'm Ana Tafoya and today I'm with Darren Wesneske, who is Offshore Key Account Manager at Roxtec Inc. He will talk with us a little bit about the Offshore Units lifecycle management and the importance of safety and operational reliability for these assets. Welcome, Darren, and thank you very much for being with us. How are you?
I'm doing great today, Anna. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Darren. Well, I'll start with the first question. Darren, how can offshore asset lifecycle stages affect its safety and operational reliability?
Great question, Anna. So obviously, when we have an offshore asset, we expect its life cycle to be an extended up of over 30 years, and so really safety and reliability have a place in each part of that life cycle, from its infancy in the design all the way to its decommissioning. So I think a lot of people think when we talk about operational reliability and safety, we're talking specifically about what's going on today. And if we have a piece of equipment that needs to be maintained or inspected, we talk about it now. But in honesty, the decisions made early on within this project at its specification level have just as much influence over that piece of equipment than it does now. And so there was a study done by a company called HSE in UK, and they looked at 34 different industrial incidents, and they wanted to see kind of what the main factors of these accidents were. And what they found was actually pretty interesting. They found that in 44%, the actual largest percentage of these incidents, that the main cause was actually done at the specification level, meaning that they were putting equipment in areas that it shouldn't have been. So it's really important to kind of make those decisions throughout the life cycle, and it should be a major factor in any decisions that are made.
Totally. Darren, in this context, how do you think is COVID-19 pandemic changing asset safety and maintenance perspective for offshore units?
So I'm not sure the perspective changes. I think maintenance and reliability and those have always been factors that are kind of in the forefront of decisions that are made offshore. But what's changed is really who's in charge of some of those decisions. So obviously COVID has had a huge effect on the market, and really from an owner's standpoint, it's made them be more responsible for some of these I would say concerns. I would say up until COVID, you had the ability to have third-party inspectors and suppliers come offshore and do inspections and do maintenance of equipment. And so with quarantining and everything that goes along with it, it's made it extremely difficult for those people to come offshore and look at this equipment. So it's really taken more responsibility on the owners to really train their people, maybe even virtually from an inspection level to handle some of the safety and reliability aspects.
Yes. Another question, Darren, is how does the resources availability perspective apply for offshore assets? And in that regard, how has the pandemic impacted that perspective?
So when you're talking about resources, I think you're almost talking about, you're really talking about people and you're talking about materials. And so really for I would say most of the timeline of the industry, you really haven't had a whole lot of interruption between the two. I think, if there was a hurricane hitting a certain area, that would definitely affect the supply chain of really both of those types of resources. But with the whole aspect of COVID and really what it's brought on, it's really affected the people aspect of that. So, we're working with a lot smaller crews for a lot longer time and handling a lot more responsibility. So it's definitely had its impact on, I would say the safety and possibly the reliability of some of this stuff, just because of the people, the manpower that you have associated with a certain asset.
Darren, could you tell us more about the asset lifecycle management perspective?
So when we talk about the asset lifecycle management kind of aspect, it really revolves around providing more to customers. I think customers are looking for providers that can help them reduce cost really along the life cycle of an asset. And so providing a product is no longer a viable solution. So I work for Roxtec, we provide cable and pipe transit seals. And I would say maybe 20 years ago, providing product on an asset was kind of what you were supposed to do, and you almost considered it a success. But with owners looking for partnerships to provide value-added services throughout the life cycle, it's really changed how we do business. And so as opposed to just providing a product, now we're providing services on the design stage of the asset, into the inspection and maintenance of the asset, and all throughout the life cycle of it. So it's definitely changed the way we do business. I think one of the big terms you hear in the industry is always standardization, and standardization is a huge topic, because obviously owners they don't like the idea of redesigning. It's an extremely expensive and time-consuming process. I think you see it with companies like SBM and Modec, and the way they're doing things with their whole designs now. And so they're looking for ways to reduce costs, and standardization is definitely a way of doing that. Here at Roxtec, we definitely provide standardized equipment for different packages along the life cycle. And I think it's just the way that business has to be done from here on out.
For offshore units, why are safety and maintenance necessary?
So obviously you have the human aspect, right? So you've got hundreds of people possibly on an offshore asset in an environment that's extremely hazardous and with dangers ever present. There's hydrocarbons. They're in extremely harsh environments, and so protecting those people is always the most important thing about the idea of safety and reliability. But even the financial aspect. Obviously, you have $1 million of equipment. Accidents are extremely expensive. I think the Deepwater Horizon incident cost up to $43 billion in impact. So, and even beyond that. So we're asking our assets to do more longer now. And so there's a new term called life expectancy or life extension projects, and where they're taking a lot of these subsea tiebacks and bringing them to existing platforms. And so the days of the $20 billion production platform, I think, are probably behind us. And so what we're doing is we're extending the life of the existing assets, which entails adding equipment, making it more safe, adding new technology. So an asset that may have only been viable for 15 years may now need to be viable for 25 years, just to handle the expectations of the industry, to be honest with you.
Yes, and that sounds pretty sustainable. Darren, Darren, thank you so much for your time and your insights, which we're sure will be of high interest to all of our audience.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a great opportunity, and looking forward to the article.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And we also thank the people who are watching us. See you soon in another Energy Capital interview.